Alright, here we go. I think this is working. I hope it's working. No idea. So my plan is to just edit in Lightroom, and if you want to follow along, ask any questions in the chat, feel free. But I'm just going to start editing in Lightroom as soon as I figure out. There we go. I think we're live now. We good? Oh well. So I am just going to switch over to Lightroom in just a second, and hopefully my webcam is working, and we shall see what happens. All right. So display capture default screen. Yep. All right. So I'm going to transfer over to Lightroom here. See if I can see my screen at the same time. Okay, so it looks like there's a little bit of a lag, about 10 seconds of a lag. Let's see if it's still going. All right, come on. Yeah, there's about a 10-second lag, but I will just start in Lightroom. See if I can get this chat visible so I can see it. Come on. Why does YouTube have to be so difficult? I just want to see the chat. That's it. Come on, YouTube, you're a pain. Oh well, okay, I guess I'm going to keep the chat on this side, pull Lightroom in on this side, and just start editing away. So, some of these photos haven't been published yet. These are from my trip to New York City back in the end of October. I was down there for about a week. I went to Photo Plus. Photo Plus was a blast. Got to meet a whole bunch of new people. I did a little vlog on that with a bunch of my B-roll from New York City, and it was a bunch of fun. So I decided to walk around downtown. Photo Plus went from, let's see, make sure my audio's working. Yeah, it's working. So Photo Plus went from, I believe it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the end of October, and I ended up getting to New York City on Monday. So that gave me a couple extra days to kind of mess around, and I had my Nikon Z6 with me, I had my Panasonic GH5, and what I decided to do was take my Z6 and try and really push it to the limits, and there are a lot of people hating on the Z6, and I don't know why. I really love the camera. It may not be perfect. I don't think there's any camera out there that is perfect, but it's a pretty darn awesome camera, and what I did is I put it in double exposure mode. And so what happens with the mirrorless camera, this is a really awesome feature, since it has the LED LCD viewfinder in the actual screen itself of the Z6, I can actually shoot my first image of my double exposure and it will overlay it on top of what I'm seeing through my viewfinder, which is kind of neat. It's kind of like getting a preview of your double exposure before you even take it, and it comes out pretty darn close to what you're seeing there. And it's just a neat little feature, a neat little trick that the Z6 offers, and I'll just go through some of my images here. You might not have any audio, or let's see, I don't see anybody really in the chat. Feel free to let me know if you are. And if there's any questions you have, any images or anything you want to see, any techniques you want to see, but I'm just going to kind of buzz through my images. I took around 150, 200 double exposures while I was down there, and I was just kind of getting used to it with the Z6, and I'll share some little tips and tricks as I go. You guys can see my settings if you want to. But these are them, and I took them in black and white, and double exposures or multiple exposures are taken in JPEG on the Z6 and most cameras because it's an in-body process that the camera body does. So they are in JPEG, and I did switch some of these. Actually, I believe I took some of these in color. Okay, so I did take these in color, and I desaturated them in post. If I were to switch to monochrome or black and white in camera, that would mean the JPEG would be stuck in black and white. But normally, if you're not doing the multiple exposures, you can shoot in black and white on your camera. It will save the black and white as a JPEG because your color profiles only affect your JPEG images and not your raw images. I talked about that a little bit in the last video, and I made sure to explain it a little bit more in the description. But when you take a black and white photo on your camera, it has nothing to do with the raw, and it doesn't affect your raw images at all. Your raw images are always your raw color data off of your sensor, and the color profiles have nothing to do with that and don't affect it at all. That's kind of the cool thing about raw. You can take a black and white image. It'll show up on your viewfinder in your preview after you've taken your image as a black and white, so you can see potentially what it would look like when you're done editing. Hey there, what's up? Welcome to the live stream. I can't type as fast as I talk. But again, this is probably delayed. Whoops. Hopefully my audio is working. We probably have a bit of a delay in the video from what you can actually see on the chat when things come up, so I'm sure you'll be seeing that in a minute. So what I was kind of saying, I kind of lost my train of thought. Live streams are a little bit more difficult than I remember because I can't edit out all of my mistakes and when I start rambling and tripping over my words. So if you have any questions about double exposures or Lightroom or anything, like I said, feel free to ask me anything over in the chat on the side. I will try and answer it as quickly and to the best of my ability as possible. Every now and then what I'm going to do is check this live stream, make sure everything is going well, make sure my connection is good, so I apologize. And I have a little default live screen window that might pop up if anything goes wrong, but if anything does go wrong with this live stream, I will try my best to restart it and get it rolling again. I apologize if the resolution is a little bit slow, if the resolution is a little bit low. Been having some connection issues. My internet options out in Colorado are not the best, so just kind of dealing with what I got and working with what I got. So connection looks good, stream health good. We're just gonna say okay and get back to editing. So when I was in my hotel, I came back. I think most of these were taken the first day I was in the city. I believe first or second day. I got there, my first night, I got there really late. I flew in around midnight. I was so mad. My first flight got canceled. I was supposed to leave Colorado out of Denver at like 6 in the morning or 5:30 in the morning. And I was supposed to get into New York City roughly, I think it was probably 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that gave me all day. Oh, sorry, super thirsty, but sweet tea helps. But I was supposed to get in around 1:30. That was going to give me all day to do whatever kind of photography I wanted to do the first day, and then afterwards I could come back that night, really get a good night's sleep, sleep in the next morning, do some editing if I wanted to, or at least get used to the city, get used to the time change, all that stuff. But my flight got canceled. I didn't end up leaving Colorado until, I think it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Got to New York. By the time I got to my hotel, let's put it this way, it was like midnight. I was beat, I was shot, I was exhausted. While I'm talking, I'm just going to go through these photos so you guys can see. Um, these are unedited, or excuse me, they are edited, but there are no selects. These are just kind of all of my raws, minus the really, really bad ones that didn't turn out. There are a couple bad ones in here, but I'm going to show you guys kind of like the good, the bad, and the ugly of all of these images. And I'm also going to go into kind of a full screen preview with Lightroom, and you just hit Shift Tab. And what Shift Tab does, it gets rid of your bottom, your left, your right, your top, all of your menus, minus some of your little left-right preview, soft proofing, some stuff like that. Not complete full screen, but it's a quick way to have your menus pop up and have them all come back, or have all your menus disappear. So I'm just going to scrub through these, talk about them a little bit, and then we'll get into editing because I like to talk a lot. So this was a double exposure of a couple looking up directions, and I think there was a cement background, like wet cement was my other image. This one was a Minnie Mouse impersonator. Not even sure if I can talk about Minnie Mouse or show Minnie Mouse or Mickey Mouse in my live stream without getting sued by Disney, but we'll find out. And the background is obviously Times Square. This one was the H&M building, which I just think is a very cool looking building. And then the second exposure was just crowds of people walking. This was another one of the street performers in a really, really bad looking Spider-Man suit. Kind of reminds me of the out-of-shape Spider-Man from Into the Spideyverse or Into the Spider-Verse. And the other exposure you can see is just kind of stoplights, a one-way sign, all that good stuff. This is two exposures of just Times Square. I did get the street performers here. You can see a guy in an Iron Man suit, some cop cars back there, pretty cool stuff. Kind of the same thing, people walking. I really like overlaying images. There's so much, this was kind of just a mistake that I made. I messed this one up pretty bad. I think I just was practicing poor camera holding technique and just bumped the shutter speed twice and just got, it almost looks like it's just a blurred image. This one was kind of neat. I did a similar thing where I just kind of bumped the shutter twice instead of doing it once. I think I initially just messed up my first exposure, and the way a mirrorless, or I think any DSLR, the double exposure mode works, it's kind of difficult to delete your first exposure and start over. What you have to do is just make both exposures and then delete the entire, saved image, final image. So I think I just did that and tapped the shutter button real quick because I messed up. I think I overexposed the first one. But I really love right here, I wish I would have done more of this. It was a super foggy day. I remember it was a Tuesday. I had my coffee. I was all happy. It was one of those kind of rainy, dreary, rainy New York days. It was foggy, it was dark, it was cloudy, and just these came out. The light was great. And then this building, it just fades off into the fog, and it was just awesome. The fog was super low. I haven't published this image yet, but I really enjoy it. This lady was standing in front of a bus, and you could see there's actually someone else over here too, and in the background you can see that it was the same building here disappearing off into the fog. And that was same building as the first exposure. Similar idea, but I was able to actually finish both exposures, and I think the images came out pretty decent. I really enjoy them. So I'm going to go over to the chat here, just make sure the live stream is working. Just to make sure everything is working. Not too many people chatting it up right now, so hopefully you guys are somewhat enjoying whatever it is that I think that I'm doing over here. So, alright, we are back to Lightroom. Let's see. Really like this. This is probably going to go up on my Instagram pretty soon. Let's see what else we have. New York City bus, people walking. Kind of like this. One of the Broadway theaters, and this guy chugging his monster. This image, I think, needs to be rotated. Let's go to Tools. What is it? Where's it? Photo. Rotate counterclockwise. There we go. That's, I think, what that image was supposed to look like. Moving on. There we go. I like this one a little bit better. It almost looks like this isn't even a double exposure, but the cab is one image and the stop sign is another image. Same thing with this one. It kind of looks like two things that go together. People standing at the crosswalk and the little crosswalk sign. Same thing here. I really need to add some more contrast or lift the shadows in this image to make it work. This was kind of neat. Hollywood sign and taxi. Here we go. Here's another mess up. I told you guys I screw up too. I've been shooting photos as long as I can remember. I've been shooting professionally since 2009, I think. So it's been, for me, a little bit over 10 years, 2008, 2009. Been shooting for fun for about 15 years, but professionally about 10 years, and it doesn't matter how long you shoot, you're going to mess things up. And I mess things up all the time, and I'm not afraid to admit it. The good thing, as you start to get better, you should have more images that turn out properly, hopefully. Sorry, get I'm super thirsty. But yeah, as you start, you'll probably go take, let's say, 100 images, and maybe one of them will come back and actually look good. And then as you get better, you should take 100 images, maybe 2 of them look good, 3 of them look good, 4 of them look good. And you should get to the point where you start taking images and you have more images that work or look good than images that don't work. So this was kind of neat. Crosswalk, you can see some feet up there, some bright LED lights over there. Times Square is super bright. I really like this one too. The cab was one exposure, and the dude on the bike was another exposure. People walking, and then a close-up of the crosswalk. Guy with some AirPods. A crosswalk, walking, boring. This one was kind of neat. It looks like you can see a set of buildings over here, and then another row of buildings. It kind of looks like she's walking across the sky to that row of buildings. Thought it was interesting. This was a guy shoving bread in his mouth. On the back of some guy's head, kind of boring. I really like this photo. I think it turned out pretty well. We'll go back and actually I can show you. These are my settings. I didn't crank it too much. Here's the before. There's the after. Wasn't a fan of this in color. It was blue and red and just meh. Yeah, not much of a fan at all, even if I desaturated it. I loved the red umbrella and I loved her lipstick. I almost thought about doing selective coloring and just keeping the lips and just keeping this. And does she have red nail polish as well? That would have looked really cool if she also had red nail polish. It just would have made this nice kind of like line, compositional line. And you can see in the background here, the other exposure is just these, I believe, probably apartment buildings, a little bit older buildings. My mistake is that the buildings, if she is straight on, the buildings are a little bit crooked. So it's kind of my self-critique. But other than that, I really like how this, I really like how this image turned out. Let's go on to the next one. I tried again, just in case. I wasn't 100% sure if this one was in focus. Luckily it was. But I did try again with a more dominant second exposure, and her is a little more, I guess, mysterious. Yes, these are a little bit grainy. I think I was shooting at ISO, let's find out. ISO 640. Had to pump up that ISO a little bit because I was shooting on a 400mm at 5.6 and 2/50th of a second. I think I could have shot with a little bit lower of an ISO, so it wasn't quite as grainy, but this grain kind of works, I think, especially if I keep this in black and white. It has that gritty, grungy kind of black and white street photography feel, and I enjoy it. I think it looks okay. I don't mind the grain. If I had shot at ISO 1250, 1600, I think that would have been a little bit much, but it's kind of working. I don't know what I was doing here, the back of an umbrella in a building. Kind of boring. Wouldn't publish it. This one was bokeh and people walking. Not a fan. Kind of boring. This one's okay. I like what I did with the lights here. I think I was just trying to play with using bokeh as one of my exposures, or bokeh, however you want to pronounce it. These out of focus little balls right here, and then something that is in focus, and just merging those two and mixing those two kind of comes up with something interesting. So I wasn't a fan of the color. Maybe I'll come back and edit this one later. I like this one. There's a puddle, the street. You can see what those little pylon things right there in the traffic. Go through these a little bit faster. New York Police Department. Little guy right here in my second exposure with an umbrella. Again, NYPD. Guy walking. Police Department. And was this? I can't even tell what the second exposure was. I think there's a street light right there. This was another photographer. I don't know who this guy is. Maybe somebody will know who this dude is. I saw him walking around New York quite a bit. Saw him 2 or 3 days there. Seemed like a pretty cool dude. Didn't talk to him. I was going to introduce myself and say hi and see if he wanted to shoot together, but no idea who he is. I was just being a creep and doing street photos. Let's see. All I did for this one was, I believe I took a picture of the sign, then dropped my lens down a little bit and took a picture of the people underneath the sign, just kind of merged that frame together. I did like this image, this older couple and this building looked kind of neat. More bokeh and umbrella, kind of boring. This was a street vendor in one of these buildings here. Another street vendor, same guy. Thought this guy had a very interesting face. Boring. This one was kind of cool. This one, both exposures came out so sharp and so prominent that they almost look like they are one image with a reflection. Look at how sharp both of those are. This dude back here is pretty dang sharp. He was selling some sort of crap that I didn't want, some kind of tickets. And this guy is super sharp. And that just happened, it just happened to work out that way, that this one guy had walked in front of my frame. I thought I had completely missed the shot. And then I went and I took a picture of him. All kind of worked out by luck or by accident. And they turned out pretty darn sharp together. It looks kind of cool. It almost looks like I did that in Photoshop. But it's all in camera. This one, I published this on Instagram. I like the way it turned out. It could have been a little bit sharper. You can see the eyes are slightly out of focus. Beard slightly out of focus. I think I focused on, I don't know, I think he was coming towards me and my focus was a little bit back here. Yeah, you can see my focus is a little bit more on the back shoulder right there. I missed focus, but this image came out really sharp, so it makes this one look sharp at a low resolution. So I like that shot. This is Kevin Costner lookalike and a street sign. Kind of boring. Not a huge fan. I do like this image. That's probably going to go up on Instagram. This one I was trying to play with some framing. I did this quite a bit. Playing with framing, taxi cab driver, and the street lights. Kind of like this one. This is what I really like about double exposures. You can start getting into conceptual photography. So this guy was some sort of a street crossing. I don't think he was a cop. He might have been. Yeah, it looks like he might be. But he was doing something, controlling traffic, and I thought it would be really cool to kind of play with that idea of what he was doing and who he is. So I took a nice sharp, fairly sharp image of him, and then that walk sign right here to kind of merge the ideas of he's directing traffic and so is the sign. So this kind of tells what he's doing, because hard to tell from that image. This was actually one of my favorite double exposures I took. I thought it kind of had an interesting meaning. If you can see pretty easily right here, this is that street vendor just kind of hanging out, and I happen to get the second exposure right across his face, so you can't actually see his eyes or who he is, so it's kind of ominous, and it's like almost anyone could be filling this position. Just kind of like when you see the back of somebody looking over like a giant landscape, it just kind of makes you, you can put yourself in their shoes because you don't see their face. And the second exposure just happened to get by accident. It was this kid riding in this car, in a minivan, through Times Square, and he is holding a camera up out the window. You can see the lens cap hanging here, the camera strap, and he was just kind of shooting Hail Marys. You can almost see his photo right here. You can see the buildings, the side of the car, there's somebody standing right there, but he was just kind of shooting out the back of his car, and just kind of getting some city shots that who knows what they look like, but I thought it was interesting, and like I said, this was all luck the way this came together, but this little kid is kind of like going over this guy's heart, and then this is just kind of like this bonus compositional thing, like he's looking down, and I thought it was really cool, but it kind of gives the appearance that like it's like this ghost inside of this other guy, kind of like a multiple personality. I think I labeled or said something about in my Instagram, how was it, my Instagram caption, like something about there's like a kid in all of us. And that's kind of the feel that this made me get, and I was really happy that this one happened to turn out. It feels like this story about this guy's like inner child that liked to take photos, and then, you know, the guy gets stuck doing, you know, a job he might not like. He could rather be out here taking photos, but he's stuck here in this vendor booth. And I just thought this made a very conceptual image and kind of was interesting. So that was one of my favorite images. This one, not so great. Not so great. There's a walk button, and then there's a lady and a couple other people walking across the street. Oh, excuse me. I did like this one. I shot over this lady's head so I could see what she was taking a photo, and I think she was doing, she was actually doing an Instagram photo as well of this exact same street. So I think it's just interesting how our compositions are different and what she was choosing to take a photo of as, you know, I guess an Instagram photographer or whatever she was, whoever she was. I just thought it was an interesting juxtaposition of this is her taking a photo, and this is a photo of what she was taking a photo of. And I did that a couple more times. There's Spider-Man again, frumpy Spider-Man. Guy in a bike juxtaposed with traffic. That was kind of neat. This one was kind of boring, kind of out of focus. Not a real fan of it. This was the same guy in a bicycle wheel. And I think this was just another mistake. I'm glad I caught this moment of him laughing, but I really wish I could have not messed up my second exposure on this one. I do like this. This guy kind of looks like a Al Pacino, Jimmy Hoffa looking gangster dude. And then you have a construction worker here. Just two guys walking across the street a couple seconds apart from each other. This one is okay. This image is in focus. I did another one of those blurry bokeh background images. I was kind of buzzed through these. I'll stop at the ones I like. I do like this one. This is that H&M building kind of going off into the fog, and you can see this antenna or spire here just kind of disappears. And then I got this nice sharp image of this guy looking up, and his eyeball just kind of happened to sit right there in the center of the image. And live stream going good, awesome. Again, you guys feel free to interrupt me. I'm just kind of going until someone asks a question. Let me make sure our live stream here is working. But like I said, feel free to ask me any questions at any point in time. I'm just kind of rambling on here.
And his eyeball just kind of happened to
shut that up. Yeah, I'm just kind of rambling on here until somebody feels like stopping me. Just kind of buzzing through images. If you're new to the live stream, if you just kind of jumped in here, welcome, glad to have you. I'm just here in Lightroom going through some double exposures. Might be doing some editing pretty soon. We've been going for about 30 minutes so far. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to just drop them in the little chat right here, and I will answer them to the best of my ability, or I'll try and find you the right answer. So, like that image, let's see. Again, double exposures, it's kind of a guessing game. You never really know if it's going to work or not. Elmo had this old guy. This was kind of a neat one. I caught these birds flying across from these street poles to somewhere else, and then these two police officers. I like this one. This guy kind of stared right into my lens, and I lined his face up with that light. Here was this police officer saying something, and you can see the reflection of Times Square right there in his glasses. I should let that load right there. Nice and sharp. And the grungy background, that's one of my favorite ones, as is this one. So these police officers rode by me. They stopped at a light in front of me, so I got both of their photos. And then I took their image, or excuse me, their photo again. This was this guy right here, and this guy over here was the guy in the other photo. But then I waited for them to roll by me, and I got a picture of them kind of riding away with this. And I think this was a pretty successful image. Compositionally, I really like it. You got a very strong, rule of thirds right here. His eyeball is right on that rule of thirds. It's super sharp. This guy kind of looks like a Mark Hamill a little bit. Like Star Wars A New Hope, a young Mark Hamill. Interesting. Yeah, kind of has that Luke Skywalker face going on. Anyway, sorry I got distracted. I have these nice buildings, again, the cops right here, and there's just a nice vertical composition with a nice diagonal here. Kind of makes your eye bounce around. There's a bit of a triangular composition here. If you can work triangles and certain kinds of geometry into your images, they'll usually end up being pretty successful if you do it for a reason. You can kind of see the triangle between, his police department badge right here, his patch, his face right here, and this light kind of brings you into close to the eye. You can see the face right there, and then you can follow this line down here and see. I wish these were in focus, but my focus was way back here. I think I was focused at infinity, and my depth of field, yeah, 400 mil, 300 mil, and 5.6 was a little bit shallow. I wish I would have gotten these guys in focus. I think that would have told the story better, but I'm glad I got the tops of these buildings in focus. Turned out pretty cool. Not that interesting. There is the naked cowboy, if you've ever been to New York. He's a pretty funny dude. Again, just because an image is in focus and tack sharp doesn't necessarily make it good. Here you can see I have the ground is tack sharp for my first exposure, and then my second exposure of this guy tack sharp, but it's not that interesting and nothing I would write home about. I like this one, playing with that H&M building again, and a second exposure of some grungy textures, and I brought those out using a lot of dehaze and quite a bit of clarity. I don't necessarily like this texture tool a bunch. It's kind of like, texture is a weird in-between of clarity and dehaze. So you can see if I bring up texture, it's like if you sharpened, or excuse me, texture is a mixture of like sharpening with a large radius and clarity is kind of like a mid-tone contrast sharpening as well, and texture really just brings out the noise a lot of time. I usually use it for portraits more often than not if I want to smooth the smooth the image out like that. You can really smooth out skin tones if you just kind of go nice and easy with it. But Not a huge fan of the texture tool. This is, again, mostly clarity, which I didn't want to bump up too much. Sometimes you have to do it a little bit, about halfway up, just to get it to start working. Same thing with dehaze. Sometimes you got to pump it up a touch, and sometimes a little bit goes a long way. It all depends on what your image looks like. Dehaze and clarity are kind of great because they act a little bit different with every image, especially dehaze. If you have one image, it might act a little bit different with the dehaze tool than another image. I was playing with a guy dressed up as the Statue of Liberty with some buildings. Same thing there. Almost interesting. Pretty close. Flag, Times Square. I got lots of photos of people taking photos, if you can't tell. This is another one of those images. Same guy from a couple images ago. He was taking a picture of this Levi's sign, and I decided to overlay an image of the Levi's sign. Again, Disney, might get sued by Disney. Again, the car's in focus. This is very distracting. I can't tell that my subject is right there hardly without looking at it for 5 minutes. This one was kind of cool, I thought. This guy over here shooting with an Olympus, and then you got this guy shooting with a little Canon point and shoot, and this guy actually might have been taking a photo of me, who knows, or using me as a focus point. But I thought that one was kind of neat. I published this on Instagram, kind of neat image. Boring, out of focus, kind of boring, out of focus and boring. Just plain old boring. I think this guy had a super bright raincoat that I turned the saturation down. Actually, the color probably works better in this image. If you guys haven't seen my color versus black and white, feel free to check that out and get rid of some of these errors in this live stream. But we're still going. I released a video yesterday giving my kind of tips and tricks to how I decide whether I should make an image color or black and white. And, oh, hey, the sun's coming out. Nice. Sorry, I get distracted easily. I didn't know if this video would be helpful or not, but a lot of people seem to be asking for it, and I always see it on Instagram and Twitter. People go, well, I couldn't decide between color and black and white. Sometimes they both look good, but I thought I'd give a video on kind of like what goes through my head when I decide to either take an image as a black and white or color image with the intention of releasing it that way, or if I take an image, just a regular color image, and then decide that, hey, I'm going to release this as a black and white and edit it that way in post-processing. So check out that video if you haven't already. That might give you some insight into the way I look at things. We'll buzz through these images. Again, guy crossing and a crosswalk sign, kind of neat. Guy eating food and a bird, meh. This one was okay. Again, a sharp image doesn't necessarily mean a good image. That's one of the things, and I apologize if I hurt photographers' feelings. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but being in the military has given me kind of this background of you have to be truthful or else you're going to lose. Like, you have to, the military is very factual, and you can't kind of tiptoe around things. Again, I apologize for all these distracting things. I have a chair that doesn't work all the time, and I just kind of sink down slowly. So in about 5 minutes, you'll see me, and I'll be about 4 inches shorter because I bought a broken chair, I guess. Well, back to my point. I'll try not to get distracted too much. When you're in the military, things are very factual, and you have to be factual, and you have to be very objective. And I think that kind of leaks over into my photography, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. It really helps when I'm critiquing photos. I have, and I'll probably end up doing a video on this, how I objectively critique photos, because we hear all the time, and it's really common to say photography is subjective and art is subjective, and that's absolutely true. But at the same time, I'm sure you've heard of photo contests, and there are awards that people win for their art and their photography. And when you see these images that win, a lot of them have a bunch of things in common. You'll see that they're all things that make the image better. So you can go through a checklist, and again, I'll make a video on this later because I think it's super important when you're going to be critiquing someone else's photos. And that might be something I end up doing in a live stream, end up doing photo critiques. If you guys think that's a good idea, let me know over in the live chat over here, because other than B50, the live chat is kind of dead. Kind of talk to myself. But yeah, ask me any questions. Feel free to interrupt me again at any time. If you're new to the live chat, welcome. But back to what I was saying. The military has made me very objective, and I have to be objective to get my job done. I can have a little bit of more fun on the side when I'm shooting for fun. Like when I was in New York City, I was just kind of shooting for fun with no real mission. But when I have a mission to photograph something in the military, let's say there's planes taking off ready to go on a deployment, there's some sort of exercise or training happening, I have to be extremely objective. And if I come back from my mission and I don't have the images that my boss, my supervisor, my commander, whatever, if I don't have the images that I was supposed to take, or if they're bad photos, the military is not going to be okay, or my commander, my supervisor, is not going to be okay with bad images. There's nothing okay with that. And we can't tiptoe around the fact that if I take a really bad image, and if I gave my boss a really bad image, I'll see if I can find some examples of that. I don't know if I have any of my military photography like directly offhand here. Probably not. Black and white photos at a concert. Yeah, my military imagery is, I believe, backed up on a different hard drive and in a different catalog. But what I wanted to say was, if I come back from a shoot and I did not do my job, someone who outranks me will have absolutely no problem telling me that I did not do my job. My photos did not accomplish the mission. They did not, meet the criteria. And I think that's extremely important to be in that mindset, at least the way I work. And I think there's some relatable things that other photographers can use, because I keep seeing on, especially the photo Twitter community and on Instagram, there are people that have been shooting a long time and have no problem, just tooting their own horn and very prideful about their imagery. And I look at it and I want to say something that, hey, I don't think this image was successful. And there's a couple times I have, and I probably shouldn't have, but sometimes people ask for critiques, and I may not have the nicest critique because, again, I'm not the type of person that's just going to say, hey, you have a cool photo, bro, and just kind of leave it at that. I am very much a person that is going to tell you like it is. If something was successful in this image, I will absolutely praise you for it. But if something was unsuccessful in the image, I will critique you for it, and I will tell you, hey, this didn't necessarily work objectively. You could have made this better. And there are some objective things, especially like focus, sharpness, composition, that can be objectively done right and wrong. And that's the thing that some people don't know in photography. And objectively and subjectively, I did a lot of, crap in this photo shoot. But objectively, I think I did some things right in some of these images. And subjectively, let me know what you think in the comment box or live chat. What you think I did right or what I did wrong, and we can talk about that. But when it comes to critiquing, and especially I just spent the last year, the military said, hey, you're pretty decent at photography. We're going to send you for a year to go to Syracuse University in New York, and we want you to get even better, and we want you to be able to teach everyone else what you know. So I learned a lot of critiquing, a lot of more photography, little tips and tricks for training other people, teaching other people, and I really want to share with you guys and on this channel what I learned, but sometimes that also comes off with being very objective and being very harsh, and some of my videos and my critiques are like that, just because, and I'll probably make this window a little bit bigger over here. Let me fix something in this live stream real quick. There we go. Cool. So yes, as a photographer or critiquer, I can be a little bit harsh because I want the people that are following me, especially people following me on YouTube, Twitter, whatever, or people that are asking me for my opinion, I don't want to mislead you. I don't want to give you, bad advice. Or if you took a really bad image, I don't want to tell you, hey bro, great image, banger snaps, whatever the slang term for cool photos is today, because it changes like every 6 months. But I digress. I don't want to give you bad advice and telling you that you're going off in the right direction if you ask for a critique from me, because I really appreciate, and I take that seriously. If someone asks for my critique on their image or comes up to me at work and says, hey, what could I do to be better? I don't want to misguide you. I don't want to do you a disservice wasting your time or mine saying, hey, this was a great image when it's not, and you're going to go forth taking more images just like that, having not learned anything, and then I just wasted your time. Because I think when people come to me for a critique, it's that they want their images critiqued, and that's not necessarily saying I'm going to shred your images, but it is saying that I take critiques extremely seriously. So if you want images of yours critiqued, I would absolutely love to do live streams, and who knows, maybe middle of this week or maybe next weekend would probably be a better idea. Maybe we do a live stream. I was inspired by Noe. If you don't follow Noe, he's an awesome neon light, neon noir photographer from Korea. Awesome photographer. I was just in his live stream last night. Definitely check out his channel. But he said it really good, and I think, he said it well when he was talking about, giving people critiques, being real, and that's what I want to do. I want to be real with people, and I'd like to set up something similar to what he did. I'll probably end up opening like a Google Drive box, and I don't care if your images are the best. I don't care if your images are the worst. I'd love to see kind of what you guys are shooting. And if you want a realistic, objective critique, I try not to be very subjective. I try not to tell people, oh, well, this is what I would have done, because that doesn't help. You're a different artist than I am, and what I would have done is different than what you would have done in every single situation, and that's okay. And that's why there's more than one photographer on this planet, because what one photographer would have done will hopefully be different from what another one would have done. And when you start getting critiques from people that say, this is what I would have done, my brain, at least for me, my brain just shuts off and goes, you know what, no shit, that's, sorry for the language, like really, yeah, that you would have done something different than I would, because we are two different photographers, we have two different styles, and that's what's great about photography, in that way that it is subjective, that you can do whatever you want, and it's not necessarily wrong. But there are some rules and stylistic things, big crossroads, but I think I just digressed and got off topic for like the last probably 30 minutes, maybe not that long, last like 20 minutes, and I apologize for getting way off topic. Let's get back to Lightroom real quick, and again, my chat over here is completely open. Feel free to ask me any questions. Didn't expect too many people to come in for the live stream. I will type it in here anyway. Feel free to ask me any questions. Because sometimes I know people like to listen to the live stream, watch the live stream with their audio off. and I don't think there are closed captions on this. Sorry, I have anxiety when my trash can gets full. I don't like the way the Mac trash can is. I think I have the lower part of my screen cut off. Little rant about Macs. The little trash can icon, it doesn't matter if there's one thing in there or there's 100 gigs of 100 things in there. The trash can is always full, and that gives me anxiety, and I just kind of get OCD and have to empty it out. But here's another image. I tried this one in black and white and in color. Well, let's do a little shortcut here that I like doing. You can do, for treatment, you can do color, or you can do, right here, black and white. And that is a quick way to go back and forth between color and black and white without messing around with this saturation slider. Another thing you can do, the shortcut for that is the letter V as in Victor. So if I press V, that goes to black and white treatment, and you can see right here, vibrance and saturation are grayed out. And if I just want to go back and forth between color, black and white, color, black and white, you can also see my histogram changes from, 1200 shades of gray, from whites up here, my midtones, my shadows, and then going back to color, you can see my luminance, my blues, my cyans, my yellows, my reds, my greens. Just a quick, again, V on the keyboard, just V all by itself. We'll toggle back and forth between color and black and white. And I like these images. It's a mixture of graffiti and these brand new buildings that they're building downtown Manhattan. I just thought it was an interesting message of kind of like the new versus the old. And they're building these new buildings kind of right on top of these old areas, and all this new money is kind of coming into downtown Manhattan, and you have all these old historic buildings, all these lower income areas, a lot of graffiti, which I love street art and graffiti and the stickers, just cool stuff. So I thought it would be interesting to kind of juxtapose those using double exposures, and I think a pretty cool way to do double exposures, and I guess you'd call it art. This is just two city exposures on top of each other, but here is a double exposure with Inner Self. Welcome to the chat, Inner Self. I am currently talking to my inner self because there aren't that many people in the live chat, but welcome. And I definitely agree that most people are probably lying on the couch right now, but I appreciate you coming in, and I appreciate everybody who is watching. This is the equivalent for me of lying on the couch, just kind of sitting back with my MacBook and editing in Lightroom, because I feel like, I don't know if any of you feel this way, I feel like I'm never done editing my photos. I'll go back and edit photos from 2-3 years ago, or 2-3 shoots ago, however I feel that day, but I feel like I'm never done editing, ever. So yes, I guess most people are lying on the couch on Sunday, but if they're lying on the couch and they are bored, it'd be awesome if they kind of just couch potatoed and watch my live stream. Because I do want to, this was kind of last minute, so I really didn't expect too many people to show up. I'm super thankful for those that did. Again, if you're new to the stream, hey, a little QR code. Wonder what that goes to. Yeah, if you're new, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you. Just kind of going through Lightroom right here. You have a pretty poor description in my video description. These are just some double exposures I did in New York City. I was going to do some editing. I really don't know what to edit. Polaroids, that's from an old video, I think. Hey, look at that. It's a bad image. I take bad images too. So if you're ever taking crappy images, just know that people that have been photographing for a lot longer than you probably take crappy images too. Again, the key is just to take less crappy images than you did last time. We can talk about, I can edit some images here that I took of the Rocky Mountains, which I absolutely love. One of these images is actually the thumbnail for this live stream. I used a lot of these images for my black and white versus color video, and again, if you haven't watched that, definitely give that a look. The snow's melting here, which is pretty sad. I think we're supposed to get snow again pretty soon. Let me check my weather. In the springs, let's see what we got here. That's completely unhelpful. Okay, maybe it's not going to snow. Let's see what the weather's looking like. I don't know why I never added Denver. Denver, Colorado. Yeah, it's all the same. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Sorry about that. I like to get sidetracked. So, yeah, next time we have some snow, I really want to go up into the mountains and hike the mountains here like I used to do in the Adirondacks when I was in New York. I used to go up there with my buddy Tyler, and we would go, look at this. Oh, this fresh snow. I just want to hike up here. I don't know about you guys. Look at this. Like a bunch of little, it's like 1,000 Christmas trees just like nicely covered in snow. Come on, load. Load, damn it. Yep, you know what? Well, while Lightroom is choking, I'll just kind of keep talking to myself. There we go. I like, if you can see this in the live stream, half of this image over here hasn't loaded. This half hasn't loaded. Oh, there we go. Now it's fully loaded. It looked like a one of those lens baby images, tilt shift, where this part right here was actually in focus, and this other part was out of focus, and it looked really cool. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that in Photoshop real quick, because that looked really neat. If you guys saw it, I'm going to recreate a little tilt shift image in Photoshop, but wouldn't this just be, maybe it's just me, but this would be a blast to go and hike through here, get some nice drone shots like over this ridge. This is gorgeous. Not the image. The image is whatever. You know, I'm not saying this image is fantastic. Let me show you guys my settings real quick. Very blue. I could probably turn up the white balance a little bit warmer. Never mind. I like it kind of blue like that. I believe 6500 is pretty close to daylight. Whoop, nope, don't want that. Daylight exposure, daylight white balance just does not work for this image. I turned my highlights down a touch, pumped up my whites, cranked my blacks and crushed those a little bit. I actually want a little more detail in the blacks. I think I crushed them a little bit too much. And that way I can, there we go, turn that contrast up. The clouds look nice, nice vibrance. Let's see what it looks like if I turn down the saturation a touch. It looks okay. I'm kind of whatever with it. Sorry, texting people on my phone. Let's see. I really like that heavy saturation. That really works well in tilt shift images for the most part. Oh, my stomach. I am hungry again. Need some more tacos. Turn up that texture. Let's see what that does. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the texture tool, but I think this is kind of cool. Let's open this up in Photoshop. So I'm going to go right-click the image, edit in, and edit in Adobe Photoshop 2019. I just updated Photoshop, so this may or may not properly, connect over. What is up, Alexander? It's kind of cool. I like how you got your name flippity-floppy like that. What's up, dude? Welcome to the live stream. We've been going for an hour. I think, you know what? If I can keep myself busy for another hour, I will keep this live stream going for a bit longer. And looky there, Cameron decided to show up. Welcome. I'm going to take this image over into Photoshop when it decides to load, if it decides to load. And we are going to try and kind of make a tilt shift looking image. And I think it'll work really well There we go. Photoshop's just going to chug along right here, reading this raw image. But yeah, we're going to try and do a little tilt shift image for those that just kind of popped in. Just messing around here in Lightroom. Let's see, where's my live chat? Hey, you can see some of my other images. I don't care what's new in Photoshop. Here we go. So, a couple minutes ago, if you're just kind of coming into the chat, I thought this image would look really cool because Lightroom froze on me and it kind of blurred out part of this side of the image and it blurred out this side of the image. And I thought it would be really cool if I tried to recreate that. My chair is sinking again. And if I try to recreate that with kind of a tilt shift look. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep my background locked. I like to edit in Photoshop as non-destructively as possible, so I can always go back to that background layer. So I'm going to hit Command-J. Let's make sure our live stream is still working. I hear my computer chugging a little bit. Good, I think we are still chugging along. What is your preferred style of photography? Whew, that is a good question. I don't know what to tell you, to be honest. That's a really hard question. I really love landscapes. Now that I'm in Colorado, I liked shooting in the city when I was in New York. Just kind of, I think my photography really kind of molds around where I am and kind of what I'm doing. I'll start editing this and we can keep talking. My photography changes a lot based on where I'm at. I probably enjoy portrait photography the most. Gallery, tilt shift blur. I really enjoy portrait photography. There's just something about it that I don't think there's a type of, I guess, satisfaction, I guess is the word, kind of job satisfaction that I get from portrait photography that I really don't get with anything else. I say that as I'm editing a landscape photo. I really enjoy landscape as well. Ooh, I hope this turns out cool. Come on. I apologize. Photoshop is chugging a little bit, going a little bit slow because I got my live stream software going on. I got my Photoshop going, my Lightroom's going. I just might barely make this work. It's going to be a little hard because you can see this diagonal right here goes right up the middle. And the tools, these little tools for getting it just right and editing your tilt shift blur are kind of a pain in the ass, to be honest. But that's kind of cool. It makes the mountain kind of look like a miniature mountain. I don't know if I want to chop the top off the mountain. I might be able to, I can go in there and mask it off if I really don't like the way the blur looks. Distortion, I really don't know what, to be honest, what this distortion tool does with this Photoshop tilt blur. Whenever I play with it, it really doesn't seem like it does too much. So I usually put it back to 0 just so I'm not chugging through my RAM and melting my processor, not knowing exactly what the tool does. And if I'm not really seeing anything interesting, I really don't care to waste that processing power on something that isn't really happening, or isn't affecting my image the way I want it to. See, these tools are a pain in the butt. I'm trying to line this up. There we go. So I guess you have to be on this little circle thing right here to rotate your whatever it is, line of focus right here, and which I do want to rotate it a little bit. I want that blur to come across here a touch and just kind of fade off. And I like it very heavy. Let's just hit OK. This is just chugging along. Let's see how that looks. But yeah, again, I like to get myself distracted. My preferred type of photography is probably portrait. I think landscape comes into a pretty close second with that, especially like snowy landscapes or fall landscapes, just gorgeous landscapes. Absolutely love photographing. That didn't blur. Hold on, I got a text real quick. That didn't quite blur the way I wanted it to. I'm going to go in. To be honest, I think my image is right here. I don't think I need all of this. I'm going to probably crop. Let's see what happens if I crop this a bit. There'll be less pixels for this to try and chug through. Maybe a 5x7. So yeah, something like that. Let's try 4x6, 2x3. I think wider in this instance works a little bit better. But what I really like is this part of the mountain right there. Good Lord. All right. Now that's Cameron messaging me right now, telling me that he had to bail, which is cool. Thanks for coming on. All right. Sorry, I keep going back to this chat. But yeah, Alex, sorry to really kind of make a long answer out of something that probably could have been pretty short. I really love landscape, and I really love portraits. I guess this was a 16:9. There we go. Portraits, there's just something about portraits that I think I started kind of talking about this and got distracted. There's something about portraits, telling someone else's story, giving someone's personality within a portrait that's just, it's something awesome. And I think it's something I'm getting better at. That's why I enjoy it. But it's one of those things that I don't get the same satisfaction necessarily out of certain types of photography. Like, I enjoy street photography not as much as portrait or landscape. I love doing cityscapes. I love doing long exposures. I've been getting into time-lapse again a lot recently. Sorry, it's kind of hard to multitask here, think and edit at the same time. I've been getting pretty heavy into time-lapse photography, which is kind of an interesting mix between, photo and video. But I really, really, really enjoy time-lapse as well. I added some of my time-lapse work to my most recent, let's turn this blur up a little bit. There we go. Again, I added some of my time-lapse videos from New York. I shot a lot of time-lapse, and it ended up in my Photo Plus vlog. But I'd really like to do a lot more of that. And I think I'm going to do this blur just kind of like this. I think that looks kind of cool. High quality. I don't know what the save mask to channels is, but we're going to find out in a second. Never used that before. But we're going to let this load, and this might go on Instagram today. I am at RunNGun Photo on Instagram, so feel free if you want to follow me if you are not already. Again, I appreciate all you guys in the live chat. But yes, to answer you, since I definitely did get sidetracked, I think I'll put it here. Portraits are probably, my preferred style. If you mean kind of like niche or what I like doing, if we really want to get into it, like style, I really love neon lights. I have a very strange obsession. Maybe not so strange. That looks cool. I'm happy with that. What did it save? Oh, okay. It saved the blur mask. Cool. That's super cool. I wonder if I can... Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mess with this a little bit. I'm going to make a new mask, and I'm going to paint in the areas that I want blurred, which I should have just done in the first place, but I like the way the gradient goes on this left-hand side. Sorry, you can see on this left-hand side, I love the way the gradient just kind of falls off, and it's working like this were a miniature scene. There's a nice, distance there, so as I'm getting closer to this mountain, as my focus is getting closer to this plane of focus right here, it gets sharper, and then as I go away, it gets less sharp. My problem here is this area right here on the top of the mountain is pretty close to the same focal plane as this area right here, so it shouldn't be as blurry as this background image. So, or excuse me, as this background area right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush out some of this effect. You're going to be difficult, aren't you? So brush. There we go. I'm going to, using a black brush, kind of mask out the top, because I want the tip of the mountain here to be in focus with this, and I kind of want this area back here to just kind of fall off. And that looks pretty good. Wow, I like the way that worked. Then my clouds back there, should be blurry as they go in the background. I think these clouds right here, some of these, I'm trying to imagine kind of my focal, my plane of focus right here. I think these clouds over here would be in focus. Yeah. I don't want any of this blurred at all, just to make sure that's not blurry and that's nice and sharp with my mask. Yeah, there we go. So I definitely isolated these areas. That looks pretty darn good. I'm going to go down here again, make sure I'll keep these areas in focus right here. And then there's just that nice subtle fall off as it kind of goes back into the background there. Now I'll make sure I paint in some of these areas here that I know should be blurry. Right along this edge. That should be nice and blurry. Back here should probably be a little bit blurry as it falls off kind of quickly. This ridge I want to be blurry. There we go. And maybe a little bit of blur just kind of as it falls off as we go back there. So this has a touch of blur, but again, my focal plane right here, and then I just want this to fall off just a little bit. Cool. I actually like the way that turned out. I'll mess with that later, but I'm gonna save that right now. Let's see, what shall we save this as? Tilt shift test, that works. We'll save that. I can hear this chugging a little bit. So we're going to close Photoshop in just a second here. Get back into Lightroom. And again, I apologize if this stream ends up getting semi-quality. Quality's still good. 22-ish frames per second. Got some drop frames, that's fine. Hopefully the video quality on your guys' end looks halfway decent. Here's a little preview of some images I've been working on. Some of my neon portraits. Again, I think I got distracted halfway through answering your question, but I love taking neon portraits. So if that were my ultimate #1 genre of portraits, neon portraits are definitely it. Let's see. You know what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into Twitter real quick, drop another post, and just say, hey, we're live streaming for a little bit longer. Twitter. Let that load. Just in case anybody else wanted to drop into this little live stream we got going on here. Let's see if we can get that link. I believe, where's my live stream? Live streaming. Stream. This is confusing. So yeah, I really appreciate all the questions. And again, if you, it's just going to take me back to my information. That's not what I want. If you guys have any more questions, please feel free. Just drop them over here in this little guy, this live chat window, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Here we go. Hopefully, this is still working. Who knows? I could have been talking for the past hour and the live stream died like an hour ago. It happens. Cool. I'm just going to copy and paste a live stream link here. Put that over into the Twitters. We're still streaming. There we go. Tweet that out just for funsies. Updating. Oh boy, Creative Cloud, you drive me nuts sometimes. Let's quit that. Let's go back into Lightroom because that's why you guys showed up, not to follow me around on Twitter. So yeah, that was a fun little side rant thing. Again, I take crappy images all the time, so feel free to call me out on my crap. This is the Air Force Academy. If you guys watch football at all, the Air Force Academy football team stadium is right there. I shot a football game there not too long ago, but where I live, I have a pretty great view of the Air Force football stadium, which is pretty cool. Falcon Stadium. Pretty neat. Sorry. And with a 400mm lens, you can see that pretty darn well. But I had gotten bored one afternoon and just took my lens out, walked around the lens and camera, obviously, walked around the neighborhood. And I have some pretty great views just from where I'm at of the mountains. Excuse me, this is an image I think I used in my black and white and color video. Again, hitting the V key will go between black and white and color. And some of these images, the clouds, dang, this was like 3 weeks ago, I think. This is right after I came back from New York City, but these clouds were just fantastic, and I thought black and white, they look great in color, don't get me wrong. I really love that cool kind of like monochromatic look of the blue. It just makes it feel so cold because it was freezing that day. But yeah, the black and white, it just looks awesome. You can really see the texture in the clouds. So that texture pops out. There's a certain movement that's there, I think, with the black and white that you don't see as well, in my opinion, when it comes to the colored images. And it just really, the black and white just really shows off that texture. Let's try this one, black and white. I don't know what this one looks like. But again, black and white, it shows off texture. You can see the texture of this mountain right now. Less of the depth. Black and white, one of the cons of it, it does make your images kind of flat. But sometimes one of the pros of it is that it brings out texture. Now, one of the cons of that is that maybe there's an image that you don't want to show off a lot of texture in, and maybe you're doing a portrait, and the purpose of the portrait is not to show the texture in someone's face, especially females that you're taking portraits of. We always do retouching, most photographers do, and we try and get rid of a lot of the texture and, really smooth out the skin tones. So maybe black and white wouldn't work for that, but you know, if you're taking pictures of, you know, cement, gravel, something where you really want the texture to pop, maybe a really old man's face, he's got a cool beard and everything, and he has a very textured face, and you're trying to show how weathered and worn it is, that's probably a good portrait use of black and white. You can see here, these are my befores, and these are kind of the afters. I can just hit a backslash, and that will give you my before and after. Might take a second here to load. Come on. There we go. There's before, and there was after. It was a very bright, bright day out. These were on the Z6, again, before and after. And we can take a look here at my settings. You can see I really pumped up the clarity quite a bit, pumped up the dehaze a lot as well. I really wanted these clouds to just, you know, punch you in the face, and then turn down my black values quite a bit. I'm going to turn them down even more. Turn down the highlights. It was super bright out. I was shooting some of my lowest settings. I probably could have brought down my aperture a little bit. F9 seemed pretty good. It was coming out as exposed. I think I was probably metering, probably center weighted metering, probably around here, maybe around here. But I was definitely spot metering to try and make sure that the mountain wasn't getting too dark. I didn't want to spot meter for any of these areas in the clouds. I may have done center weighted or matrix metering. I don't remember at this moment what exactly the heck I did. But again, if you look here, it's very flat image. I was shooting a flat image profile in RAW. Obviously, RAW looks very flat when you don't do any sort of editing to it, and there are no color profiles like on your JPEGs. That's why JPEGs always look a lot better than your RAW images. But if you guys want to, I will go through and I will edit one of these kind of from scratch and just kind of take you through my working process. This is actually the same mountain range and the same mountains, just without snow. So let's try and find. Just trying to find. So you can see right here the slope that goes up right here, and then these two that kind of look almost identical right here. Repeating ranges right there, and the slope that goes up. I'll find that right over here in one of these images, just kind of show you. So this is that slope that I was talking about that goes right up here, and these repeating. I was in two different locations. I was a little bit over here when I was shooting this way for those sunset images, but they are the same mountains. Yep, again, there's that slope right here, and then the repeating mountains over here. Same place, just completely different lighting. Yep, here's that slope. You could see all the houses down there. Love to get a house over there. That's kind of the next thing that I'm working on, is buying a house. Because right now I'm stuck in a super tiny apartment, and that's where I'm doing this video from right now. I'm stuck in a very small apartment, not very happy with it. I have extremely noisy upstairs neighbors. Not happy with that at all. And I don't have a studio, which is sad that my New York apartment was bigger than this one that I have in Colorado. And the one I have here is smaller and more expensive, and it's super frustrating. So, hopefully this spring getting a house here, and kind of revamping my photo business. We'll see kind of what happens. Yeah, let's kind of buzz through these. I'm not happy with all of them, but you can see what a huge difference that lighting makes. Going back and forth between the sunset imagery and these clouds here, because you can see same mountains, same place, super dramatic, super contrasty, and then right here it's a lot more calm, a lot more flat. There is, I guess the hues are flat. Hey Galaxy Stars, what's up? What did you miss? Well, you missed, let's see. You missed an hour and 24 minutes of me not doing too much. I've been in Lightroom. We did a little tilt shift edit in Photoshop. We went through some of my double exposures that I took in New York City back in October. Right now what we're going to do, we're talking a little bit about lighting. Feel free to ask any sort of questions you want about photography in general. I'm just kind of going with the flow. We were talking about portraits earlier. Right now we're talking about, the difference between color and black and white photography, kind of like the video I released yesterday. But right now what we're going to do is I can show you a little bit of, this is an image I edited of, this is the mountain range right behind my house. And as soon as it loads, here's the before of that image, and here's the after. How old are you? Oh yeah, I'm 10 years older than that. So I'm going to be turning 29 here in a month. So a little bit older than 19, but yeah, I guess I should appreciate that I look young. Whatever. But yeah, so yeah, I'm 29. A little bit young for a 19-year-old to be buying a house, but yeah, I'm looking for a house right here up in the mountains. Definitely make for some awesome stuff on the channel. And something that I really want to do, I don't know if my audience wants to watch it or not, I want to do a lot more of kind of hiking up in the mountains, a lot of outdoor photography, a lot more landscape photography, and taking you guys with me on hikes up this mountain range. And these, if you can see them right here, these aren't clouds. This is an entire other mountain back here. You can see the rocks and stuff. When I was initially shooting, I didn't even know that was a mountain. I thought this was the back of the mountain range. This is a whole other huge 13,000 foot mountain. And we're already at, I'm at, in my apartment, I'm at 6,000 or 7,000 feet. So this city is a mile up in the sky. The air is super thin. Hard to breathe up here, hard to exercise. But yeah, I would love to take you guys on a vlog or a series of vlogs where we just go hiking up here up in the mountains. I will get to your model question in just a second. I did see it, which reminds me, I'd love to bring, a model up here, up in the mountains. I think that would be pretty sweet. Look at all these pine trees. But yeah, let's do that. Let's do some more, whatever vlogs, photo tutorials, whatever I decide to do. Up in the mountains. They're right here. They're just a couple miles away. That is gorgeous. I'm working on a new intro for my channel. It's one of the things I've never really had as an intro for this channel, or a little channel trailer. But yeah, flying my drone through here. I'm gonna do that next time. Next time we get some good snow, because it all just melted. I just got back from vacation, and all of this snow pretty much melted. So I'm frustrated. But let's get back to the questions. How do I get my models? So I actually did a video on how I get my models. I find them all over. I find them on Twitter. I find them on Instagram, on Facebook, all sorts of social media. And there are some people that reach out to me, especially on Instagram and Twitter, that reach out through my DMs. The biggest thing to think about when you're wanting to shoot with models, have a portfolio ready. So that's mostly if you're looking to do paid work. Well, excuse me. Oh, need some more tea. And my awesome Syracuse shaker bottle. I think I talked about Syracuse a little bit earlier, where I spent the last year at. Anywho, but yeah, Instagram is a great place to find models. I have a video. Where is it? I will drop the link, and it'll go into a lot of tips and tricks on kind of where I get my models from. Let's find my videos. Here we go. Here is the video that I made, and I will just drop this right into our little chat right here. So if you want to watch that afterwards, that will give you a lot more information on kind of how I find my models. There's some little tips and tricks in that video. It's only a couple minutes long, super quick to watch, but that is how I find most of my models, through the info that I give on that video. But yeah, that's going to help you out a lot. So that's how I find my models. Yeah, so galaxy stars, where do you live at? Because I never used to live, this is the first time I really kind of lived up in the mountains, so to speak, in Colorado. I used to travel about 4 hours up to the Adirondacks up in New York when I lived in Syracuse. Lived there for about a year, and all winter I'd drive up to the Adirondacks and do some kind of fun snow hikes. I did a cool little vlog up there, kind of like a Peter McKinnon style vlog with some really cool B-roll of us hiking up that mountain. But the Adirondacks were nowhere near as tall as the Rockies. Just two completely different types of mountains. The Adirondacks were more like big hills, kind of like you can see these hills, like the foothills. The Adirondacks were like foothills compared to the Rockies. It's a different game. And I got to be a lot more prepared when I go up and I start hiking up in the Rockies. Oh, excuse me. But let's see, how much do you get paid from models and stuff? Oh man, that really, really depends. Depends on the shoot, depends on who I'm shooting, where we're shooting, the gear I'm shooting with. Let me answer a text message real quick. How much do I get paid? That is super hard to answer. I do plan on making a video before the beginning of the new year. It's going to come out in the next 3 or 4 weeks. I have like 6 videos I'm trying to drop in December, and we're already halfway through December, so we are going to see if that happens. You live in the UK. We're at in the UK. I was there a couple years ago. I did a little deployment to Fairford, to the RAF Fairford, the little Royal Air Force base out there. I did some shooting in London, went to Cambridge, went to Oxford, went to Bath, went to Bristol. Really wanted to go to the Cliffs of Moher, but we didn't have a chance to. And deployed there for a little bit with the Air Force, with our bombers, back when I was stationed with bombers. But that was a cool little thing. Tried to do some vlogging in England, but work just kind of got in the way because it was deployment, and my job was to be deployed and taking photos of our bombers. But I agree, the UK really doesn't have any mountains. They do have a lot of castles, which are absolutely awesome. I loved shooting the castles when I was in England. What's the estimated cost you charge? So usually my bare minimum, that's really hard because I don't want to give you like a bad number, because it's really different. Depends on your skill. I've been shooting with models for, oh dear, a couple years now. Actually, it's been longer than that. I've been shooting using models, I'd probably say about 4 years, but I haven't been charging that entire time. So if you take a look at my Instagram, I built up a portfolio, and I think that's extremely important. I'll bring up my Instagram real quick if you're not familiar with it. Some of my recent shoots. Let's see what we have here. Alright, there's some of my street photography that we were talking about earlier. Here's some of my model stuff. If you're looking, I'm going to try and answer the question, not necessarily that you're asking, but what I think you're kind of getting at is, I'm guessing you're trying to get into, I just want to know, as someone who is planning to start, cool, I was kind of answering your question as you were typing it or thinking of it. So to get into starting to shoot models, the first thing is you're going to want to have an Instagram that has other photos of models. And you can see I just kind of post fun things on Instagram. I'm not a very serious Instagrammer. I wouldn't call myself an Instagrammer at all. I just put photos from shoots that I like, and I don't put too much thought into it. I really don't do, I guess I do a little bit of a grid. But it's all about having that background portfolio. And if you're going to start shooting with models, models are going to want to see that you kind of know what you're doing, especially if you're going to start charging. I don't know how long you've been shooting. I had some imagery. You can see I'm a huge fan of light, different kinds of light, trying to essentially, this is a good example. I love sculpting faces with light, essentially. But you're going to have a portfolio, no matter what you want to do. If you don't have a portfolio, you can expect a lot of models to charge you, because it's kind of a back and forth. Because models are professionals, models are kind of a type of artist as well, and they will charge you if you don't have a portfolio. They'll charge you for their time if they are a professional, published, whatever model. Some models are runway models, some models are actors, some models do a lot of different kind of things, just how, some photographers are portrait photographers, landscape photographers, videographers, time-lapse creators, graphic designers, all that good stuff. Models tend to, especially when they're beginning, start to do a lot of different things. They'll dabble sometimes in photography, they'll dabble in brand deals, and I know I'm getting sidetracked, but hopefully this all kind of comes back to answer your question. So if you're just looking to get started photographing models, I'd recommend kind of have a portfolio. Start up an Instagram page is one of my biggest tips. If you don't have an Instagram already, definitely get one started. And start looking up models in your area. Start looking up friends in your area that could act as models, because if you take great images, you may be completely new to photographing models, but if you take great photographs of just your friends and you start publishing on Instagram, you're going to have all of a sudden these models. If you market yourself right, you're going to have models, coming after you saying, "Hey, I would love to shoot with you." And when I started doing these series of neon light portraits, I had people from all over. That's how I did this, shoot with Spidey with the neon lights. But I had people from all over coming to me because I had a portfolio, and they said, "Hey, I saw your portfolio on Instagram. I think it'd be awesome to work with you and essentially add my face to your portfolio and merge, the model style with your style, and you get a cool, collaborative piece of art." But again, have your portfolio, have images. Sometimes if you want to work with a professional model and you don't have a portfolio, you're probably going to have to pay them probably $50 to $100 per shoot on the lower end. That's if you don't have a portfolio and you like to, pay a model for their time, essentially, that if you don't know what you're doing. If you do know what you're doing and you have a portfolio, it's also a pretty great idea. You still want to keep building that portfolio. Do some collaborations. Message some models. See, "Hey, you want to shoot together? If you don't charge me, I don't charge you." And it's what's called a TFP, or trade for photos, trade for prints. Excuse me. Basically, do that. Trade your time for their time, essentially, and there doesn't have to be any sort of transaction when it comes to money. But you can use them as your subjects, and they can bring in their collaborative ideas and shoot some images for their portfolio, shoot some images for your portfolio, and that's kind of how you start to at least build a portfolio. I hope I'm not getting too sidetracked here. It's really simple to shoot with models, but I think it's kind of hard to explain. Sensor graph. I don't know what a sensor graph is. But sensor graph. I will check your Instagram. Let's do that. We got some time. Sensor graph. I think that's you. So let's see what you got. Cool. As I see you do the grid here, a lot of people are super into that. I'm not sure what's going on with these leaf images. It looks like you're just kind of trying to use it to break up your grid a little bit. I like your style. I like your colors. You definitely have some cool stuff going on here. Lots of orange and teal. Some graphic design stuff. I really like this. To be honest, this right here, I'm going to keep scrolling down, but this is the coolest thing I've seen on your profile so far. You got some good stuff. So what I would do is to give you some very personal advice. And everybody, if you want to, check out a sensor graph on Instagram. What I would do if I were you, honestly, I would probably get rid of these guys right here. Because you can see these, your images up here, you got 64 likes, 35, 49, 23, 16, and here you're getting like 8, 9, 14. It kind of looks like a graphic that was just thrown in here because they're super low resolution. I don't mean to start getting into an Instagram critique, but I really like what you're doing. I would personally kind of get rid of these guys. But I love your colors. I love what you're doing here. I really think what you need to do is either find a friend or reach out to some models and ask them if they'd like to do some collaborations. I really think you, yeah, see, I love this. Now, if you could do, I love these wide sweeping panoramic shots, and if you could do something like this involving a model, I think you might be able to find like a style in that. Especially with the colors. This orange and teal look is very very trendy right now. So take advantage of that. Use that to your advantage. Maybe you could get a model up here in this tower. Maybe you can get a model on one of these buildings and this stairwell, kind of these streets back here. I think, yeah, just experiment. You're not tagging anything. Experiment. See what happens. Reach out to other photographers, other models, go to other photographers' pages, see who they're working with, look up local people in the area. That video should help you quite a bit. Posted. Yeah, good thing, I know it's hard to post. My last post was a few weeks ago. Instagram is super hard to stay consistent with. As you can see, I have the imagery. I just went through a whole bunch of my own images. I also follow quite a few models as well, but I don't have a huge following because I don't post that often, to be 100% honest. I try and post like my top shots. This one was posted November 16th, so basically a month ago, like 4 or 5 weeks ago was my last post. But right here, this is kind of my bread and butter of what I enjoy, posting and photographing is neon portraits. I'll talk about that all day long. But you can see I did those with Spidey, and this is one of my most successful shoots. We are 7 likes short of 1,000, and that frustrates me. I thought we'd have 1,000. I think here's Spidey. If you want to give his profile a check, that would be awesome. Spideyverse. He's from New York City, from Brooklyn, but it was awesome working with Spidey. A while back, we shot together back in April. But anywho, yeah, to come all the way back to your question, definitely go through your Instagram, kind of find out what's working and what's not working, what people like. People that follow you will let you know what they like, for the most part. And then you can kind of amplify and work to your strengths of what works for you and what you're doing well. But yeah, I think I just spent, 20 minutes kind of making that a much longer answer than it needed to be. But yeah, look for models, collaborate, um, maybe find some people that have a similar style to you, maybe newer models that haven't necessarily been published and aren't doing, you don't necessarily, if you're just getting started, you don't want to work with a model that's, already working with Nike and stuff. They're going to have a very high bar and a low tolerance for, mistakes, and people that are just learning. They want to work with, people that have been, shooting for 30 years, 20 years, whatever. Find some new models, collaborate, experiment, see what happens, and definitely good luck on that. I'd love to see in the future. Feel free to tag me on Instagram with anything that you come up with, or send me a direct message. But yeah, that's pretty much my advice for working with models. It's not difficult at all. Just be nice, be professional, and there's a lot of communities of people that when you work with a model and then it ends up going well, you can always work with that model again and try a new concept. But let's see. Yeah, I understand. It's not just you. The way That's why I don't post much on Instagram either. You start getting obsessed with the likes and the follows and all that stuff. So I was super hardcore back when I had like 100 followers. I was super into, getting the likes and getting the follows and all that other fun stuff. And then I did this shoot with Spidey, and my Instagram just blew up. And I went from like 400 followers to close to 1,000. And again, my page is not huge at all. I post on Instagram, once a month for fun. That's why I, hardly have don't even have 1,200 followers. But I do Instagram for me at this point. I don't do it for the likes. I tried really hard, with portraits and stuff. This is where I kind of, when I went to Syracuse, I started falling in love with portraits. But yeah, have fun, play with light, meet some cool models. That's the coolest thing is collaborate with other creative people. See, I don't even have that many photos on Instagram. I need to do a lot of work, but Instagram is not my way of life. My life doesn't revolve around Instagram. Instagram revolves around, my life and what I want to show. And I only really use it. And the reason I do the grid as well is I use it as a portfolio, and I like to be kind of organized and show people, hey, this was one shoot. This was, one shoot. This was a week in New York. This area right here, this was one shoot. This was, another area of that shoot. Here was one shoot. This was a week. This was a shoot. This was a shoot. This was another trip to New York. This was kind of like a photo project, or I think this line was a photo project. This was a photo project. This was a project, studying color. These three, I got to clean out one of these images. Needs to drop. Maybe two. I think I'm going to get rid of this one and get rid of this one, just to clean up that grid a little bit. But yeah, I like grouping shoots together, and as I scroll up, I can see how I improve and how I grow as a photographer. Again, it's more for me. I like when I get likes, but if I don't get likes, I really don't care. You can see I've gone from getting, here's 336, here's 127, here's 90. So it's like half, 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 half. And here was, we had down here, I was consistently getting 300 likes. There's 600, whatever. And then they just kind of slowly started to drop because I stopped posting as often as I wanted to. Because, yeah. Hey, Snowplow, what's up? For someone starting out in photography, don't have much of a budget, what would you recommend for editing software? Let's see, do you have any lighting tips for FPR, natural light reflections and stuff, also your neon stuff? So let me answer these one at a time. I think I answered the Instagram question. So, for someone starting out in photography, not much of a budget. Um, Honestly, it depends. Hmm, that's a hard one. So I do a subscription to um, why can't I think? Sorry, I'm blanking out right now. I have a subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud right now where I pay like $30 a month or $20 a month, whatever it is, and I get the whole suite. I get Photoshop, Premiere, After Effects, Lightroom, all of that. What you can do, and I recommend this for $9 a month, and I think you can do it even cheaper if you're a student. You just use your student ID, set up an account with Adobe. Um, but I would recommend doing. I think it's a $9.99 a month um, for Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop, if you can afford that. Another option is to check out Skylum, and I'm one of their what do you call it, affiliate people. I need to do more videos and tutorials with their software. But there's a piece of software called Luminar, and I talked about it, I think, a little bit in my vlog. Um, but I'd definitely check out Luminar. I would check out, let's see, because I have Luminar 4. I have Luminar 2018. I also have Aurora, which is a great HDR program. Um, Excuse me, but Luminar is very similar to, um, let's see, yeah, you can see my little discount thing just loaded. Um, I might be able to get you a discount code for Luminar. Right now it runs um, $89, and that is a one-time license for Luminar. I think what you can do, let me see if I can get you a discounted link. I'm RunNGun Photo on Instagram or RunNGun Photo on Twitter, whatever you like to use. I'm not sure how you found me. Um, but Luminar is basically $90. Um, direct message me on Instagram, and I'll send you both a link if you want to, one of my affiliate links to Luminar, and that should give you a discount. And then it just Luminar keeps track of my affiliate codes and all that stuff, and for no extra cost to you guys, it gives me a couple extra pennies to help me do Luminar tutorials and stuff like that. But shoot me a DM on Instagram, and I'll get you guys one of my links. And I think I have like a 10% off on Luminar, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, $89 is super cheap. Um, Aurora is great for $100 if you can get that package. But Luminar is basically like Lightroom. It's that one-time investment, though. It's not like Creative Cloud where you have to keep paying back into it. And then, Luminar, you use it forever as long as you want to. And it's that one-time payment. So definitely recommend Luminar. What's up, Truth? Welcome to the live stream. I'm glad to have you here. Feel free to drop any questions that you want. I'm working on answering them, but no, Luminar is not free, but it's as close to free as you're going to get. There are free editing software out there, but I blocked your Instagram. You blocked my Instagram. I don't know who you are. Truth of Chaos. Well, I apologize for blocking your Instagram. I'm not sure. What's your Instagram? I'm not sure why I blocked you. I rarely block people on Instagram unless they are some kind of a crazy troll or something like that. What's your Instagram? Drop your Instagram and I'll tell you. I could probably tell you why I blocked you. um, underscore truth OX. Account is private. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're not even popping up on Instagram, so I really don't know who you are. But yeah, I super rarely block people on Instagram. I'll try one more search, just for fun, because I'm having fun doing this. And I will absolutely, if I blocked you for a good reason on purpose, I will absolutely tell you why. I can only think of like 3 people that I've blocked on Instagram. Sydney, photographer. Well, you have no posts. Depends. Were you trying to like spam your YouTube channel? Or, because again, if I blocked somebody, it was probably because there was one guy I blocked not too long ago because he kept DMing me, telling me to like his photos, and I don't do that crap. So, just being completely honest, I'm not in any of those, chat bubble. Yeah. So if you were DMing me, telling me to just like your photos, I probably got bored of that, and I probably wasn't a fan. If you don't have any posts, yeah, it kind of definitely looks like a troll account. So, yeah, I don't know. And then there was another guy I blocked because he wanted to do a shoot in New York, and he ended up being a creep. So I don't think that was you. And there's another guy that bailed on me on a shoot, so I blocked him. And then there was another dude. Let's see. I mean, we can go through. I don't know if there's a list to see who all I blocked. I don't know why you don't have any posts. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, here we go. So what I'm gonna do is, I mean, I don't. I do have posts. It's just because you blocked me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what kind of photography. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss right now. What I'm gonna do though is I'm gonna get back into editing because, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Oh, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure why I blocked you. I feel like there was a good reason for it. Like there was some trolling or some shenanigans or something like that. But yeah, that's the only reason I block people. Let's show you when you unblock. Yeah, I'll look at it later. Like I said, I'm not gonna suck up the whole live stream just with this back and forth. But I'll check it out later. Whatever, I don't know why I blocked you, but I'm guessing there was a good reason. If I did it on accident, I apologize. And I mean, no problem. I have no problem going through and unblocking you, whatever. If I was in the wrong, if you're a troll, I mean, yeah, you're gonna stay blocked. But let's get back to the Lightrooms, and we can deal with that later, because I'm tired. Okay. Yeah, lighting and neon. I owe you some answers. Specifically with lighting, what was your question? Let me get back to what your actual question was before we got into shenanigans. And truth, feel free to ask any questions. Again, we weren't really getting anywhere, but if you have any photo questions, I'm cool to answer whatever. Any Instagram questions. But we were talking about lighting tips for natural light and reflections. Yeah, we can talk about that. Sorry, my phone is blowing up. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. My girlfriend is texting me pictures of her Christmas wreath, so of course that's important. Yeah, okay, let's go and let's talk about lighting and neon stuff. Um, if you have anything more specific, I would love to talk to you, about more specific stuff. Um, Natural light. So I mean, natural light really it is what it is. Um, I wouldn't worry too much about reflectors until you've kind of mastered like natural lighting. I don't know if I have any imagery on here that's really. Um, well, here's a shoot. So you're gonna have this super annoying file can't be found on top, but let's go through. And this shoot that I did, I apologize, my hard drive is not plugged in right now, so I can't look at these at full resolution. But you're going to see a good example of natural lighting, and I will get into another shoot that I did with, bounce cards and reflectors. But natural light really comes down to, just making your model look good if you're working with a model. And you can see here, what kind of camera do I have? Well, this shoot in particular that I'm showing right now, that was at the Vessel in New York City, was, let's see. This guy was my D750, Nikon D750. Right now I shoot with a Nikon Z6, and I do my video work with a Panasonic GH5. But I do most of my stills on a Nikon Z6. But yeah, natural light is all sorts of playing around. I really, really, really love shooting, especially if you're getting started out, shooting with, flat lighting. You can see it was a very overcast day, and the lighting looked very flat, and it was very flattering to the model. And I played here between, going color and black and white, and each had, their pros and their cons. But lighting is really practicing and seeing, what do different lighting, styles do? What does super harsh lighting? A lot of photographers will say, never shoot at, noon when the light is, straight up above your model. It looks super ugly. I'm going to turn on my phone light real quick, and I'll give you a super quick example. So here we go. I have, it really doesn't matter what camera you have. So why did you ask me what camera I have if you didn't care what camera I have? You asked. Okay, and I answered. So what I'm going to do, I want to bring this guy up, make it a little bit bigger. I'm sorry for the crappy lighting. Right now you can see on, whoops, everything's flipped. On this side of my face, I have a nice natural, kind of like a rim light over here that kind of accentuates the side of my face. And additionally to accentuating the side of my face, it also, let's see, I'll make sure that, there we go. Yeah, so this light kind of naturally accentuates the side of my face as a rim light or kind of an accent light or a kicker, and it's always a good way to separate your subject here from whatever background is going on there. But as I was talking about before, noon lighting is going to look, if you're shooting at noon, it's going to look like this. It's going to give you horrible shadows in the eyes. It's going to give you really bad shadows coming down here. It's going to give you harsh shadows under the chin. And let's say this was, sorry, on this side, I got a big window right here. So let's say this was a window light. What I could do is the window's kind of just lighting up this part of my face. Maybe I take my model and, I spin my model around towards the light, so I'm actually, lighting up the face. I can spin this right here. You guys can see my big window in my room. But taking your model to a window, for example, if you don't want to go outside, a window is a great free way. You don't have to worry about lighting, equipment. You don't have to worry about flash, any of that stuff. A window is a fantastic way to get nice soft light, especially on a cloudy day. Right now we have the sun is about to set. The sun's actually about to set on the other side of the apartment, so I'm just getting nice, soft, blue sky lighting right now. But window is a great way to practice around with. Okay, I don't know what's going on here in the chat. Some people that hate on Nikon for the quality. Oh, yeah, some people don't like Nikon. I don't know why. Nikon is a fantastic brand. Pretty much you can't go wrong with a camera brand today. I'm not a huge fan of Sony. I'm not going to get into a huge argument. But it has to do with color profiles, color processing, and how the Sony sensor works with Sony's processing software. That is it's an objective, it's not a subjective thing. A lot of people don't like cameras for a lot of subjective reasons. They don't like the brand, they don't like whatever. They had a bad experience with, if I had a bad experience with a Canon 10 years ago, I'm probably going to hold that grudge for another 10 years. I'm actually going to turn on let me turn on some more lights here real quick so I can see and you can see. Here we go. So what I did, I have some rope lights set up, and you can see these rope lights are going, they're behind my computer screen, but they're going up across here. They're kind of looping around. You can see I'm getting some nice soft light here from these rope lights. And to be honest, mastering lighting is really all about, and I did a ton of videos on this, and I'm actually going to link you right now because that's going to help you way more than me trying to explain it with my phone. Let's see. I'm going to give you a couple different video links right now, and I've actually put the time into making these videos, so it's going to be a lot more helpful than me trying to explain it with a webcam right here. These are going to be a lot higher quality. So I did a video on, I will link you to this lighting playlist because that will probably help you a lot more. And you can just kind of skim through all of these lighting videos. And I mean, that is why I have the YouTube channel. So let me get this playlist right here, get this loaded up. And here's a link to my lighting playlist. And this Galaxy should help you quite a bit. This is an entire playlist of videos I've already done about lighting. And if you take a look in that playlist real quick, you can see that, let me shut off my phone light so I don't kill the battery. So I have my first video on there, 9 light hacks in 90 seconds. I have dramatic portraits only using one light, and I think I still have my webcam up. I did the entire video, the dramatic portraits with one light with a single LED panel, and you don't even need that. You can do the entire video, I could have gone through the entire video. It would have been kind of cumbersome with just my phone light because there's a lot of different, dramatic lighting styles. If I didn't have, an auto exposure thing going on my laptop camera, I could show you, I could do some nice Rembrandt, I could do some nice split lighting where only this side of my face were exposed and this side of my face just kind of falls off into darkness. I can do some nice fairly flattering butterfly lighting. You can always do the direct light, which a ring light will do depending on who you're shooting with, but your lighting always depends on who you're shooting and who your model is and kind of the structure of your face, and usually male and female you'll light a little bit different. You never really want to light anybody from under here like this. You never want to show off, some people have some chin fat. You always usually want to have people lift their chin up so you don't have anything crazy going on right here, and you shoot higher angles. Sometimes you'll see that a little bit more. If I drop my light, you can see, get that jawline, especially masculine jawline, and females, you don't want to have them look like there's any scruffiness going on under their neck. But yeah, take a look at that playlist. Let's shut my phone light off real quick. Take a look at that playlist. Watch those videos. That's a playlist I'm always adding to. I love doing videos, again, about portraits and light. I talked about that a little bit, but absolutely, absolutely love doing videos. Uh-oh. Is the stream still going? All right. I apologize. Okay, we're still going. Sorry about that. I closed tabs. I don't know if it stopped for you guys or not. But yeah, check out that playlist. And I think those should be some pretty helpful videos for you, kind of getting started with light. Yeah, I think hopefully that answered your question. And when it comes to neon light, that's why I really like shooting with like neon signs as my key light or my main light. Excuse me. They create very flat lighting, lots of colors, lots of, they look very flattering. So I think shooting with neon, is a lot of fun. But let's, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the Lightroom. Let's go back into Lightroom. This might take a second. But yeah, definitely when you have the chance, if you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Check out those videos. Those should help a lot with lighting. I'll do some more videos if you're interested about flat lighting. I absolutely love, again, shooting on overcast days, but you don't have to shoot on an overcast day. I was talking about this a little bit earlier. You can shoot at noon, but it all depends on, you got to be smarter than the light, mind over matter, and knowing if the light's coming straight down from here, I probably don't want, my model bent over like this and have the entire face in the shadow. Maybe I want to, turn my model's head up towards the light so it just kind of streams across the face. There's not really necessarily, and again, this is my opinion, I don't really think there's good or bad lighting. I think there are good and bad. Excuse me, I'm getting hungry. It is almost dinner time. We'll probably wrap this up in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, because I got to eat some dinner pretty soon. But yeah, there's good and bad, photographers. I'm not saying if you don't know lighting you're a bad photographer, but there's good and bad ways of working with light. So if you're a really good photographer, you can pretty much work in almost any lighting condition, just because of what you've learned, the skills that you've learned, how you've learned to handle light. It's all about handling the light, not necessarily calling light bad just because you don't know how to make your model look good in that kind of lighting. So model positions and compositions. That is a whole nother thing altogether. You can see in this shoot, I'll go through some of these images. Cooking tutorial, nobody's going to want to eat the food that I cook. But one of the basic rules is rule of thirds. And then what I like to do, learn rule of thirds and then learn when to break rule of thirds. Rule of thirds is like if I just hand someone a camera for the first time and they've never shot before, I'll teach them what the rule of thirds is. But somebody that has been shooting for 2, 3, 4, or 5 years, I'm not going to expect them to learn the rule of thirds or necessarily use the rule of thirds. Rule of thirds, geez, my stomach's still going, is something that I'm trying to explain this. I use rule of thirds, but it's something that I'm going to teach and I'm going to expect. Rule of thirds is like the ramen instant soup of soups. Like, it'll get you full. I mean, like, and it's super easy to cook. Anybody can cook, ramen instant soup because it takes 2 minutes to cook on the stove. But is it the best soup out there? No. Does it taste the best? No. Is it going to, really satisfy you? No. But it'll, give you a high sodium full stomach for a couple minutes. Rule of thirds is kind of that easy rule that you can teach to anybody, even if they don't know photography. And you can see even here in most of these images, I'm putting my model, on the quarter, like not necessarily a third. The third would probably be right here where her hand is. Here's a half, and then here's a quarter. I really like, and here's even farther over. I like pushing the rule of thirds. I like playing with composition. I like playing with, centered composition. If she was standing on the third here, I think that'd be kind of weird. Which I did try it though, because, no harm in trying. Film is free when you're shooting digital, essentially. Won't get into talking about hard drive space, but you know what? Maybe try your model in the center. Maybe try your model, completely dead center. Maybe, I tried rule of thirds. The face is on the upper third right here. And Lightroom is great because, well, Lightroom's not so great. It's not proving the point that I'm trying to make right now. Won't let me crop this image, but when you use Lightroom and a lot of different cropping tools like Photoshop, a lot of them will show you, a grid or guidelines for how you should crop your images. And let's bring up an example right here. The photo is crooked, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and crop it. And you can see I have, this isn't rule of thirds, this is more of a center weighted rule, but you can see all these grids I can use to kind of line this up a little bit better. And then I can change, I don't remember how I do this, photo, and it is in, let's see, tools, crop, adjustment, crop guide overlay. And I can go to thirds, which is pretty cool. I can go to the golden spiral, which is, another awesome way of doing some interesting compositions. This kind of, you can see, kind of goes towards more like the rule of fourths, which I use a lot more than the rule of thirds. And the rule of fourths, if you look it up, it's not really an official thing. It's kind of like a made-up thing. This is, again, that golden spiral, just shown in a different way. But I like throwing my models on the quarter just because it's a little bit different. Here's that Darth Vader neon shoot. Let's bring a couple of these images up real quick. Some of my edits. Here's a nice strong use of rule of thirds. I have the model's face on this third and the eyes on this upper third as well. Turned out pretty well. But it's all about playing with composition. Here's almost centered, not quite rule of thirds. You can see the eye that's in focus right here comes right down that center of the image right there. And let's find some more. There we go, same thing. Her eye is kind of on this upper quarter, upper third. I guess the upper third would probably be between the eye and the nose right here. But her eye that's in focus is right here on the center, and it just drags you. Shortcut for the guides, by the way, if you want. Yeah, so the shortcut has something to do with, I can look it up right now. Crop tool is R, and going through your overlays, I can cycle through them O, and then I can change the orientation by the up arrow and the letter O. So let's see if I go to, hey, photos from Maine. I'm going to choose a not boring photo. Boom, there's a photo. So what I can do is, if I wanted to do, all shortcuts, I can hit R for my crop tool. Oh, come on now. There we go. And then I can hit O to cycle through my different overlays. The spiral's a lot of fun. This is aspect ratio overlay, which is pretty cool. It'll show you the different, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. This will show you your different options for, nope, sorry, I'm just hitting random keys now. Aspect ratio will show you different options. I don't know how to do this. Come on. Sorry, I'm having some issues with Lightroom right now. Is it Shift O? Okay, Shift O does different orientations. Okay, so if I hit O, they'll do rule of thirds, and then Shift O will, here we go, Shift O will give you different different rotations of that guide, essentially. So I can move the spiral all around here, or if I want a different thing, there we go. This will show me what, a 5x7, a 2x3, a 4x5 look like. Vertical, horizontal, and then grid, there's not much. Some of these only have one option because rule of thirds, even if I rotated this, it would still be rule of thirds. So yeah, the letter O. So that's what we learned today, the letter O. But yeah, I think I should probably get into wrapping this up pretty soon. I really didn't expect to stream for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Pretty cool though. Glad to have some people that came through. I had a lot of fun with you guys here today. If you're new, I'd appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel. If you're not new, thank you for subscribing. You're awesome. Let's see. Let me go back to just doing this screen right here. There's me. There's some things I wanted to look up real quick on Instagram. But yeah, really appreciate everyone that showed up to the screen, to the stream. Feel free. I just had Snowplow. Start following me on Instagram. Yeah, feel free to DM me on Instagram, or on Twitter, whatever. Or one of the things I don't talk about that much, and I'm going to go back to my screen real quick. All right. So one of the things I do not talk about that much is my YouTube community, and all my YouTube community is YouTube. It's a little tab when you go to my page, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my YouTube page here, just hit RunNGun. Look at that pretty thumbnail. Here's my page, and there's this community tab right here, and I just wanted to highlight that real quick. Hit that community tab. And I post in here all the time. So I posted about my live stream. I posted that I was going to be live streaming. I posted and asked if you guys wanted live streams. This was my most recent video, this black and white or color video. This was telling you that the video is coming a day early, so I really enjoy using this tab. Sometimes I'll just post little fun photos, so I'm going to be doing a video about this kind of secret little film camera that I found at a thrift shop. And if you guys are interested in that, please let me know. In this community tab, I post all the time. Feel free to, just give me a thumbs up. I think that shows more people my posts on here. I love giving updates on usually the day before a video. I'll let you guys know, hey, maybe this video is going to be a little bit early. Maybe a video is going to be a little bit late. Sometimes, here's an example where I showed, the full version of a thumbnail. So this was my how to create dreamy neon glows in Photoshop. And then I wanted to show you guys, the full uncropped version of that portrait because I really enjoyed it. And just little side things, kind of behind the scenes. I'll tell you guys if a video is taking a little bit longer than it should. If I'm here, I said I was having some, audio issues. Some little funky things like that. Hit 7,000 subscribers, which was absolutely awesome. Little thank you messages. I'll share some other YouTube photographers or just YouTubers that I enjoy. Here's a dude named Jared Neville. Super cool dude. Made a camera dolly out of Legos, which is super awesome. So go check that guy out. Polaroids, and then obviously some of my military stuff, which I'll do some more about that. I'm coming out with a video about, being a military photographer, what that entails, why I can't necessarily talk about everything I do. Neon glow link, absolutely. Let me open up that tab real quick. I'll give you a direct link. And I showed off some of my neon photos and that, but let's see if I can copy this. Let's see if it's this easy. Copy this link address and do that. So there's the neon glow video. I hope that works. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Actually, I don't know if you're a man. Sorry, Galaxy. I appreciate you coming into the stream. Sorry for assuming your gender. But yeah, I appreciate you coming out here. Had a handful of people in here, which is really cool. This is something I really want to do a lot more of. I was inspired by another photographer named Noe. I'm actually going to drop his channel in here too, because this dude has been a massively awesome inspiration for my channel. And he really inspired this live stream that I did today. So there's Noe's channel. He is a neon noir, as he calls himself, street photographer. And he does a lot of neon landscapes, cityscapes, things like that. A lot of good editing tutorials as well. So definitely check out his YouTube channel if you're looking for more neon light stuff. And it's always good. I highly recommend following, different kinds of YouTubers. I'm not a huge fan of all the huge, YouTube photographers or photography YouTubers, because there's a lot of people that they may have 1 million followers, but I don't necessarily agree with what they do, and I don't necessarily think they always take the best photos. That's just me. And not all YouTube photographers are actual, full-time photographers that are making their full-time living as a photographer, and this is what I do full-time. So again, super appreciate you coming out. Let's see. Oh yeah, his Instagram is awesome. He's got a ridiculous amount of followers on Instagram as well, because he's pretty darn good. He's a super huge inspiration. He's one of the reasons that I really started getting into some of my, the cyberpunk. Oh, geez. His cyberpunk stuff is fantastic, and I really like that he's all about the actual editing, and he's not about, just slapping a preset on a photo. And I know that's why he's very hardcore about, he doesn't give his presets because, there's no real way to do a preset for what he does. He goes in, and I was just watching a live stream of his last night, and he is hand painting things that you can't do with a preset, and it's awesome. But yeah, that is a whole nother, presets are a whole nother topic that I could talk for days about. But yeah, I think that was a halfway decent live stream. I think now, kind of warming down a little bit, and I think now's probably a good chance to cut it. Let's see, get back to my... Sorry, I'm just using a new live stream software, and it is kind of fun to use. But yeah, again, Noe is awesome. Love his stuff. Getting kind of dark here, so I'm running out of natural light to do this live stream. But yeah, I definitely want to do a lot more of these. Maybe not once a week. Again, Noe called me out for this the other night. He says I need to upload more often, and he's absolutely right. That's why I uploaded a video yesterday, and I'm doing a live stream today. But yeah, that's about it. I'm not going to promise that I'm going to do one of these once a week, but I would absolutely love to do a live stream, like maybe a Thursday night live stream, something like that. I don't know what the best time is for, the biggest part of my audience. This was kind of a last minute thing, so it is what it is. So yeah, you have a good evening too, good afternoon, or good night. I don't know, let's see, is it midnight right now in the UK? I'm not 100% sure. Haven't been there in a long time. But yeah, I'm gonna cut the live stream right now. Thank you to everyone that showed up. Thank you, Galaxy, for being kind of the top fan of the live stream. Yeah, we're gonna do this soon, and I will give you guys a lot more of a heads up next time I do this. So this was kind of last minute. I've been thinking about doing one for like a week now, and I just kind of Noe kind of pushed me last night and kind of said, "Hey, you need to do more videos." 11:30 p.m. Yeah, you guys are about 7 hours ahead. That was kind of hard when I was working over at the Royal Air Force Base over there, calling back home and stuff, having that 6 hour difference, and the jet lag getting over there. Oh man, that was a fun time. So yeah, again, I'll do this again. It was a lot of fun. Look out for more future live streams, and to anyone else that isn't commenting in the live chat, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you watching. Went for a good 2.5 hours strong, so that was fun. I will talk to you guys soon. I have a video coming up next weekend. Don't know what it's going to be about yet. Actually, I do. I'm just not going to say in case anything changes, but we'll do a live stream again soon. Winter's coming. I definitely want to do a lot more of these. So that is all. See you guys next weekend, and as I like to end every video, get out and go shoot.